I used to believe monsters only existed in movies and scary stories, but everything changed 3 years ago when I bought a cheap house in a quiet town in Ohio. The house looked normal at first, but on my very first night, something happened that made me realize I was not alone in that house. At exactly 2:30 in the morning, I heard knocking coming from my basement, and that was the moment my life changed forever because the knocking wasn't random. It sounded like someone trapped under the floor, trying to get out. The house was located at the edge of a small town, surrounded by tall trees and an old dirt road. When I first saw it, I thought I had found the perfect place to live. It was large, quiet, and unbelievably cheap. The real estate agent seemed nervous while showing it to me, especially when we walked past the basement door. She looked at it for a moment before telling me something strange. She said, "If you decide to buy this house, just try not to spend too much time in the basement." At the time, I laughed because I thought she was joking, but looking back now, I realized she was actually warning me. The first night in the house was calm and peaceful. I spent the evening unpacking my boxes and watching television. Everything felt normal until around 2:30 in the morning, when I suddenly woke up because of a strange sound. It was a soft knocking noise. At first, I thought it might be the pipes or the wind, but the sound continued slowly and clearly. Knock, knock, knock. And then I realized something terrifying. The knocking was coming from the basement. I grabbed the flashlight and slowly walked toward the basement door. As soon as I touched the doorknob, the knocking stopped completely. The silence made my heart beat faster. I opened the door and started walking down the wooden stairs. The basement smelled like wet dirt and old wood. My flashlight moved across the dark room, showing broken shelves and old boxes. But then the light stopped on something strange. On the floor, there were footprints in the dust, and they were much bigger than mine. The footprints were fresh, and they started from the far corner of the basement. Then they moved across the floor, directly toward the stairs where I was standing. My heart started racing because I knew I hadn't been in the basement before that moment. Suddenly, I heard a quiet scraping sound from the darkness behind the shelves, like something slowly dragging itself across the floor. The next morning, I returned to the basement in daylight to search the area carefully, and that's when I discovered something hidden behind the large metal shelf built into the concrete wall. There was a small, heavy metal door. It looked extremely old, and it had deep scratches all around the surface, as if something had tried to break through from the inside. The door was locked, but the scratches made it clear that whatever was behind that door had tried very hard to escape. Later that day, I met one of my neighbors, an elderly man who had lived in the area for more than 40 years. When I mentioned the strange door in my basement, his face immediately turned pale. He told me that the family who lived in the house before me had mysteriously disappeared one night. The entire family vanished without leaving any trace. Police searched the property for weeks, but they never found them. However, many neighbors reported hearing strange noises coming from under the house during the weeks before the family disappeared. That night, the sounds returned, but this time they were louder than before. I could hear scratching and heavy thumping noises coming from the basement floor. And then something happened that froze my blood. A scream echoed through the house, but it did not sound like a normal human scream. It sounded distorted, almost like something trying to imitate a human voice, calling for help from somewhere underground. Around 3 in the morning, I suddenly heard a loud metallic crash from the basement. I ran downstairs and saw something horrifying. The metal door I had discovered earlier was now wide open, and behind it there was a dark, narrow tunnel leading deep into the earth. The tunnel looked old and unnatural, and it was clear that something had forced its way out from inside. That same night, I heard footsteps moving slowly through the hallway upstairs. The steps were heavy and uneven, as if something large was walking around my house. I quickly locked myself inside my bedroom and stayed completely silent. Then I heard breathing outside my door. Slow, deep breathing, like something standing just inches away, sniffing the air, trying to find me. As soon as the sun came up, I grabbed my car keys and ran out of the house without looking back. I left everything behind and never returned. Later, the police searched the property and sealed the tunnel in the basement with concrete. The official report said they found nothing unusual, but sometimes, late at night, people who live near that house still report hearing knocking coming from underground, slowly echoing through the quiet forest like something is still trapped down there, waiting for someone to open the door again.